Good evening and welcome to News Tonight on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Tina Jha. Let's begin with the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping hold second informal summit in Mamallapuram. Visit 3 heritage sites and attend a dinner banquet. Delegation-level talks to be held tomorrow. India and Comoros sign agreements in the areas of defence, maritime cooperation, health and medicine. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu emphasises on fight against terror as he addresses the Comoros Parliament. Also accorded Comoros' highest civilian honour, the Order of the Green Crescent. BJP Shiv Sena works for India's interest, not for vote banks, says BJP President Amit Shah at a rally in Maharashtra. Congress releases manifesto for Haryana, promises loan waiver to farmers and 33% reservation for women in government jobs. Nobel Peace Prize for Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed recognized for efforts towards restoring peace between Ethiopia and Eritrea. Ahmed also played an important role in resolving several disputes in the East and Northeast Africa. And Virat Kohli slams unbeaten double hundred, his 7th, to help India post a mammoth 601 for 5 in their first innings in the Pune Test. At stumps, South Africa on a sticky wicket loses 3 wickets for just 36 runs. Prime Minister Narendra Modi took Chinese President Xi Jinping on a guided tour of the UNESCO-declared heritage monuments at Mamallapuram. President Xi arrived in Chennai on Friday on a 2-day visit for his second informal meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Clad in the Tamilian attire of white dhoti, white shirt and an angavastram, Prime Minister Modi received Xi Jinping at Arjuna's Penance from where the tour started. This was followed by Krishna's Butterball, the Pancharath and Shore Temple. The Prime Minister was seen explaining to the Chinese leader the historical significance of these monuments. Both leaders also sat at the Pancharath and discussed many things in a very comfortable environment. From Pancharath, both leaders visited the beautifully lit up Shore Temple, a symbol of cultural heritage of the Pallava dynasty. Modi and Xi were joined by top delegates of both sides. Both the leaders and the delegates sat for a cultural event organized by the Chennai-based Kalakshetra Foundation.
इतिहास कैसे रचा जाता है, ऐसे रचा जाता है।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi gifted Nachar Coil, a branched Anam lamp and a Tanjavur painting of dancing Saraswati to Chinese President Xi Jinping. Later, both leaders headed for dinner at a private hotel in Mamallapuram. A traditional South Indian spread was part of the menu for both Modi and Xi. On Saturday, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi will have a comprehensive one-on-one meeting to be followed by delegation-level talks. Both sides will then issue separate statements on the outcome of the summit. And let's now go across to my colleague Kriti Mishra, who's covering this crucial informal summit between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi. Kriti, good evening. The bonhomie between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi was on full display and it looked great today. How did the first day go by?
Well, Tina, the cultural and the historical ties between India and China got a renewed lease of life and a fresh lease of life with the bonhomie with the Prime Minister Narendra Modi and also President Xi Jinping. You saw how he took President for a guided tour of the World UNESCO Heritage Site of the Shore Temple and also the Arjuna Penance as well as the Panchrat. We saw the dance and also the immaculate menu that has been laid out, the authentic South Indian menu that has been laid out for President Xi Jinping. What we hear from our sources that 8 delegates from both sides are also invited over this dinner, and the main focus of course now would be tomorrow in the delegation level talks between the two sides, where important issues, for instance the trade deficit between the two countries, the RCEP negotiations may figure, and also an important discussion on how to combat global terror. So certainly a very important day it was today as far as the cultural ties between the two sides are concerned, and tomorrow there is no structured agenda, but we expect both sides will have fruitful conversation. Over to you, Tina.
Right, Kriti. So we'll come back to you tomorrow to understand how the, what was the outcome of the summit between both leaders of India and China. For the moment, thank you very much for joining us. Moving on, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu held delegation-level talks with President of the Union of Comoros, Azali Assoumani, at the Presidential Palace on Friday. Reiterating India's cooperation and friendship, he said India would continue to enhance its ties with the island country. Both leaders also witnessed the signing of a few important MOUs in the areas of defense and health as well as medicines.
In a bid to enhance cooperation and share the fruits of our developmental experience with the friendly government and the people of Comoros, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu held delegation-level talks with the President of Comoros, Mr. Azali Assoumani, at the Presidential Palace in Moroni. An MOU to strengthen defense cooperation and help in maritime security and another on cooperation in the field of health and medicines was signed.
I thank the President, Sri Azali Assoumani, for the Comoros support in our common fight against terrorism, because terrorism is the enemy of humanity, and also their support for the reforms in the Security Council and its continued support to India's candidature for a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council.
Addressing the media, both leaders reiterated their commitment to strengthening bilateral ties and cooperation on matters of importance such as climate change, terrorism and others.
President Azali and I were happy to witness signing of some important agreements. We have signed MOU on defense cooperation. We have signed important agreements on health and culture. We have decided to exempt each other from visa requirement for the holders of diplomatic and official passport for short visits. Let me share with you, Comorian citizens have already been granted a visa facility by Government of India.
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu held high-level delegation talks with the President of Comoros, and both the leaders have agreed to extend cooperation in all international issues including climate change and terrorism. The leaders also witnessed signing of MOUs in field of defense cooperation and maritime cooperation, apart from another MOU in providing medicines and healthcare. Shri Naidu also recollected Mahatma Gandhi's connection to Africa and reiterated India's cooperation and friendship to the island nation of Comoros. With camera person Sanjay Kumar, Rajkamal Rao, Rajya Sabha TV.
And the Vice President also addressed the Parliament of Comoros on Friday. He said that India was willing to partner with Comoros and supplement the country's efforts to neutralize threats from piracy, terror and maritime domains, as well as cross-border transnational crimes. The Vice President said with cooperation, friendship and dialogue, the two countries could work for the welfare of their people.
My dear parliamentarians and also the elite of this great country, terrorism is enemy of humanity. It has no religion, it has no region. And we must all come together to isolate the forces of terror and stop terror funding by such organizations.
Talking about Mahatma Gandhi's 150th birth anniversary and his role in India's freedom movement, the Vice President said Mahatma Gandhi has left behind a lasting legacy of peace and non-violence for the entire humanity and said that he was a bridge that connects our continents.
my government have made a conscious effort to reach out to our African sisters and brothers, reinforcing a long-standing and broad-based support which I have always enjoyed in Africa. Our support to Africa, as well as our lines of credit and buyer's credit scheme, have been driven by your requirements and your priorities. Currently, nearly 181 projects in 41 African countries of $11 billion are being implemented with our lines of credit.
And in an extraordinary gesture of friendship, the President of Comoros conferred the Order of the Green Crescent, the highest civilian honor, to Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu. The Vice President thanked the host country for the gesture and said that he would accept on behalf of 1.3 billion Indians. In fact, the Vice President also announced that India will be gifting medicines and medical equipment worth $1 million for transport vehicles and $2 million for procurement of high-speed interceptor boats and 1,000 metric tons of rice. The Vice President also announced a line of credit of $41.6 million for setting up an 18-megawatt power plant in Moroni, as well as a vocational training center.
I accept it with utmost humility on behalf of the 1.3 billion Indians. I truly believe it as an honor you have acceded to India. According to India, I am touched by your extraordinary gesture.
And news back home, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has said that discussion on privatization of Air India, MTNL and BSNL is going on, but no decision has been taken yet. Addressing the media in Pune, she said that sufficient provisions have been made in this year's budget for the betterment of small and macro industry and employment generation. She also said that the NDA government is a progressive government and that it is putting development on fast track with the state-center cooperation.
That both in the previous tenure of Prime Minister Modi and in this tenure of Prime Minister Modi, the message is consistent that we are reform-oriented, deep reforms will continue, and we are a responsive government. We listen to industry, we listen to people, the MSMEs, particularly this belt is very well known for so many different component manufacturers. So the MSMEs, and we respond to people who have spoken to us. It is a government which is willing to hear, willing to respond.
Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla will lead an Indian delegation of members of parliament for the 141st Assembly of the Inter-Parliamentary Union, which is being organized in Belgrade in Serbia between 13th to 17th October. The Indian parliamentary delegation will depart on Saturday. The other members in the delegation include MPs Shashi Tharoor, Kanimudi, Karunanidhi, Wansukh Sayam and Sashmit Patra, among others. Lok Sabha Secretary General Snehlata Srivastav and Rajya Sabha Secretary General Desh Deepak Verma will also be a part of the team, along with PC Kaur, Joint Secretary, Lok Sabha Secretariat. During the assembly, members of the Indian delegation will also participate in various meetings of the standing committees of the IPU.
कि आईपीयू की जो बैठक होती है, जो कि 141वीं बैठक 13 से 17 अक्टूबर के बीच बेलग्रेड में हो रही है, उस बैठक में उसका एक प्रारूप ये होता है कि जिस समय पार्लियामेंटेरियंस आईपीयू की बैठकें कर रहे होते हैं, उसके साथ ही साथ सेक्रेटरी जनरल्स इसकी बैठक करते हैं, जो कहलाता है एसोसिएशन ऑफ सेक्रेटरी जनरल्स ऑफ द पार्लियामेंट, एएसजीपी। तो एएसजीपी की बैठक उसके ही पैरेलल में समानांतर उसके चलती है, अलग से बैठक होता है। और अंतिम दिन में जो सेक्रेटरी जनरल्स का और पार्लियामेंटेरियंस का एक संयुक्त बैठक भी होती है, और उसमें जो निर्णय हमने अपने एएसजीपी की बैठक में और जो हमारे इस बैठक में पार्लियामेंटेरियंस की बैठक में, मुख्य बैठक में जो हो रही है, उसको हम आपस में एक्सचेंज करते हैं और आगे का प्लान बनाते हैं।
Health Minister Harshvardhan on Friday gave away the Kaya Kalp Awards to different central government institutions, district hospitals, community health centers and private hospitals for their work in maintaining high standards of sanitation and hygiene in public health facilities. Among the central government institutions, AIIMS Delhi bagged a cash prize of 3 crore rupees, while Jawaharlal Institute of Postgraduate Medical Education and Research, Puducherry, received a cash award of 1.5 crore rupees.
तो आपकी योग्यता और क्षमता का और आपके जज्बे का देश के निर्माण में और कैसे बेहतर योगदान हो सकता है आपके अस्पताल के अलावा, इसके बारे में आप चिंतन की प्रक्रिया अपने ही अस्पताल के लोगों के साथ मिलकर शुरू करिए और उसमें से अच्छे जो थॉट्स आए उनमें से कुछ थॉट्स को आप आत्मसात कर लीजिए, उनको अपने जीवन का लक्ष्य बना लीजिए, उनको अपने जीवन का सपना बना लीजिए.
Time for a short break, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Do stay with us.
Government plans to come out with an updated version of the national water policy with key changes in water governance structure and regulatory framework.
We need to redefine, rethink and recalibrate what integrated water resource management is all about. We'll have to also reflect deeply into basin planning and the sub-basin planning.
The quantum of water is not less in this country, but management of water is required. So the next agenda should be to manage the water properly.
So we hope to come up as quickly as possible because this is the need of the hour, because as already been discussed, many issues have come up, especially the climate change and other issues which has to be incorporated, taking on and make specific policy recommendations.
Watch The Big Picture with me, Frank Rausen Pereira, at 9:30 p.m.
Let's now get you all the news and updates from pole-bound Haryana. The opposition Congress released its election manifesto in Chandigarh on Friday. The party announced incentives for women, promising 33% reservation for women in government services. The party has also promised loan waiver for farmers. The Congress has announced to form a special probe panel to inquire into alleged scams under the BJP-led Haryana government if elected to power. Senior party leaders including Ghulam Nabi Azad, former State Chief Minister Bhupinder Singh Hooda and Kumari Shailaja were present at the release.
हरियाणा की जनता, हरियाणा के किसान, हरियाणा के मजदूर, हरियाणा के नौजवान, हरियाणा की हमारी माएँ, बहनें, बहू, बेटियां, आम जनता, बुद्धिजीवी कांग्रेस को वोट देकर कांग्रेस की सरकार बनाएंगे ताकि हम अपना मैनिफेस्टो जो हरियाणा को विशाल बनाने के लिए, हरियाणा को मजबूत बनाने के लिए, हरियाणा को आधुनिक बनाने के लिए जो हमने अपने मैनिफेस्टो में वादे किए हैं, उस मैनिफेस्टो को हम पूरा कर सकें.
Haryana has got 10 additional companies of Central Paramilitary Forces to better maintain law and order during the forthcoming assembly elections. With this, the total number of Central Security Forces deployed in the state has gone up to 130. The Home Ministry has allocated 2 companies each of the CRPF and SSB, 1 of CISF and 5 companies of Karnataka IRB for the polls. The police will already be closely monitoring sensitive polling locations in the state. Of the 130 companies, 10 would be deployed in Sonipat district, 9 each in Rohtak and Faridabad, 8 in Jind, 7 each in Jhajjar, Bhiwani, Hisar, Sirsa and Nuh, 6 companies each in Kaithal and Palwal districts. Let's now shift focus to the other election-bound state of Maharashtra. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address 9 rallies in Maharashtra for the upcoming assembly polls on 21st October. As per the schedule, the Prime Minister will address rallies in Jalgaon and Sakoli on 13th October. On the 16th, he will address rallies in Akola, Panvel and Partur, while he will also address rallies in Pune, Satara and Parli on 17th October. The next day, on the 18th, the Prime Minister will hold a rally in Mumbai. Union Home Minister and BJP Chief Amit Shah took the opposition parties head-on during a rally in Maharashtra. He accused the Congress and the NCP of working for their respective families, even as the BJP and Shiv Sena have only the country's interest on their mind. Addressing a rally in Bulletin district, Shah lambasted the opposition for opposing scrapping of Article 370 of the Constitution. Justifying the decision, Amit Shah said, for the BJP, the country's security was more important than vote bank politics. The election for the 288-member assembly in Maharashtra will take place on 21st October. The ruling BJP Sena is seeking a second term in office.
मैं कांग्रेस अध्यक्ष राहुल गांधी को पूछना चाहता हूं, अपने देश की चर्चा इंग्लैंड के नेताओं के साथ कर आपकी पार्टी क्या करना चाहती है? आप कश्मीर के मामले को इंग्लैंड के नेताओं को दखल देने के लिए खुला छोड़ना चाहते हो? देश के सामने कांग्रेस पार्टी ने स्पष्टता की, देश के सामने कांग्रेस पार्टी ने माफी मांगनी चाहिए।
And on to some other news now. Congress leader Jyotiraditya Scindia on Friday condemned the Congress government in Madhya Pradesh for its inaction on the waiver of farmers' loans, which was one of its major pre-poll promises. He was speaking at a seminar in Bhind in Madhya Pradesh. Listen in.
दूसरा जो किसान का कर्जा माफ हुआ है वो पूर्ण रूप तक नहीं हुआ है, केवल 50,000 रुपया तक हुआ है, जबकि 2 लाख का हमने कहा था। वो पूर्णतः 2 लाख तक कर्जा माफ होना चाहिए।
And the leader of Congress in Lok Sabha, Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, has also said that President's rule should be imposed in the state of West Bengal. He said that the law and order situation in West Bengal is worsening. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has won the 2019 Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts to achieve peace and international cooperation, and in particular for his decisive initiative to resolve the border conflict with neighboring Eritrea. The prize is also meant to recognize all the stakeholders working for peace and reconciliation in Ethiopia and in the East and Northeast African regions. Abiy Ahmed has been given the Peace Prize for his role in ending the 20-year war between Ethiopia and Eritrea, a war over disputed border territory that came at a huge financial and human cost to both countries. Ethiopia and Eritrea have been long-time foes. Both countries fought a war that killed more than 70,000 people between 1998 to 2000 and failed to implement a 2000 peace deal. Ahmed worked closely with Eritrea's president, working out the principles of a peace agreement to end the long no peace, no war stalemate between the two countries. And in some cricket news, Virat Kohli scored a record 7th double century on day 2 of the second test match between India and South Africa being held in Pune. Virat Kohli put up a 178-run partnership with Ajinkya Rahane and then an unbeaten 107-run stand with Ravindra Jadeja as he reached the milestone. He brought up his 26th Test century in the first session and then piled on the runs as he broke Don Bradman's record of most 150-plus scores as a captain. Kohli also went past Virendra Sehwag, Sachin Tendulkar for the most double hundreds in Test cricket by an Indian. Only Brian Lara, Kumar Sangakkara and Don Bradman have more double centuries than Virat Kohli. And that's it from us in this bulletin. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.